welcome back to another episode of CATV Tech Talk. I'm your host, Drew, and we're here with our co-host, Jesse. How's it going, bud?
What's up, dog?
Living the American dream. Stuck in. Oh, no, I can't say stuck. I was gonna say stuck inside because of the freaking COVID crap, but nope, I'm blue collar, so I'm an essential. But anyways, in this episode, we are going to talk about in-house versus contractor. Now, this is usually a pretty spicy conversation with the two, huh?
Yeah, man. Like, I think people get kind of offended on each side, and they kind of bicker back and forth. But I think what we need to get out of this episode is that they're both one and the same. They're just paid differently, and really, they're treated differently.
Yeah,
and you got a tech man that's like an in-house guy that's bitching over a contractor. He didn't run the drop, or he didn't replace that gold splitter in the attic, or what. Well, man, he's getting paid $30 to do a triple play or whatever. He's not getting paid to really work his ass off, and he's probably doesn't have money to eat lunch. So you kind of got to give these guys a little bit of a break. You know what I mean? And that's something I think we'll get into here shortly.
Yeah. We'll go over the advantages and disadvantages from being an in-house to a contractor. What me and you think about our opinion of contractors, the benefits that the in-house techs have to succeed that contractors don't. I mean, maybe we'll share some of the experiences that we've had with contractors in the past.
Yeah, man. If on a advantage disadvantage scale, like in-house guys don't know how good they have it, right? They really don't. And I was an in-house tech, and I didn't realize how good I had it until I started training contractors. And man, I'm telling you, like, they gave me my uniforms, they gave me tools, they gave me a truck, they gave me a gas card, I had insurance, I had a 401k. The list goes on. If I was struggling with a metric, they'd put me in class and pay me a salary to sit and try to get better. Like, there was so many avenues that, I was set up to succeed. And what I mean by that is when I came in, right, they put you in like an 8-week training class. You do a mixture of being in a classroom. You get to ride out and see some stuff. Your boss will take you out and you'll do an install as a team, like the new guys together. They're setting you up to succeed.
And just like you, I was an in-house tech as well. And I remember going through new hire training. We had an entire week for home theater. We got 5 days to figure out how to plug in a receiver. So
that's dude. It's overkill.
It is, but some guys take advantage of it and some guys don't. But it's now you don't have the excuse. You know how to do it. But like you're saying, these contractors, they didn't get the training that we got.
Absolutely not. Like, dude, like I've seen it because I trained at 2 different contracting companies, and these guys got a week, and a lot of times, sometimes you'll get 2, but for the most part, you get a week. They'll come in, like, I remember this was my job for a while, and I felt terrible for these guys because you're talking about guys that were delivering pizzas before. They were working, doing carpentry work. There was a guy that came in that was like an HVAC tech, where he went around working on heat and air units.
Yep.
They were from all walks of life, had no idea about cable TV, and they sent them in, and they made me sit in a room with 8 or 10 guys and put this PowerPoint up, and I had to explain to them in one day every avenue of their job in one day. The next day they went in pairs to do installs, and I had to follow them.
Well, so you had to take care of how many guys?
I think the most I ever had at one time was like 8. But yeah, trying to help them. Absolutely.
So you had to follow around to 4 different jobs.
Yeah.
So let me get this straight. You have 8 guys that have no idea what they're doing. You send 2 of them into these houses with drills.
And I had to teach them everything to do on a basic install in the matter of 8 hours. Okay? In the matter of 8 hours on like a Monday. And then Tuesday, they're going out in pairs to do installs. Now, it wasn't so bad when I had like 4 guys, but still you feel bad for the guys because I'm bouncing from house to house. And the one job may be, they tried to get them within reason, right? But one job may be 10 miles from the other one. So I'm basically going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And the truth be told, these guys are just doing what I'm telling them to do. So if they were on their own, they had no idea, okay, well, you need to tie that off here. What should we put in the house box? You got 3 outlets. I got a unbalanced 3-way. Put that in there. Your levels, check your level. They don't know, right? So I'm telling them,
yeah,
you can't learn shit in one day. Now I'm not saying that that's the norm, right? But that kind of shit happens. Like that's what I experienced. And then like my second time around, their training, all their training was there was no classroom training. It was all riding around helping guys, and they were paying a minimum wage to be basically a helper for about 2 weeks, and then they were on their own. And they wonder why the overhead or the churn, the turnover is so high for contractors. If you're set up in the beginning to fail, man, and you're not making any money because once you're on your own and you're really slow because you don't know what the hell you're doing, you're better off going to do something else, right? Because so it's kind of a catch-22. But I really, when I was a tech, I had no idea how good I had it until I seen the other side of it. And these guys, in-house techs, and when I was an in-house tech, I bitched all the time about contractors, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just a thing that we did because we're like, well, we're getting paid by the hour for one. We have time to get these jobs done where they really don't. Like I watched one time, I remember this kid. I don't remember his last name, so it ain't like I'm giving him away or anything. But this kid that went through a class that I had to run, his name was Travis. He was, I want to believe he was a military guy. He had been out for a few years and out of the Army, and he had went out and he worked at like a newspaper or something for a few years working a press. And they laid a bunch of people off. Now this years back now, a couple years back, and the first job he could find was being a cable contractor. And I'm gonna tell you what, had he had the same advantages that I had to be a tech, he would have been amazing. Because dude, he took to it like a fish in water. And I remember they sent him out one day, and he says, "Dude, I don't think I can handle this very long." And I was like, "Wow, what's up, man?" They gave this kid 9 AMs.
Jesus.
He had 9 8 to 10 installs. And I'm like, what? And then I went back in and I was talking to the guys running the shop. And he's like, well, most of the guys got 2 or 3. I was like, you're giving the brand new tech here that has no idea what he's doing anyway. He's not going to be fast. And even if he is fast, if he makes more than 3, he's flying. That's impossible to hit 9. And now you're putting so much pressure on him that he's going to quit on you, man.
Yeah.
And I think he got done with all those AMs at like 9 o'clock that night. And they didn't move any of them off of him.
And how discouraging is that? One of your first weeks in the job and you're stuck working way later than you would ever anticipate. I mean, you should never be stuck out at 9 o'clock. I mean, we've all been there, don't get me wrong, but to be I don't know. I just feel like,
that scenario was very shitty.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Like I remember there was a time when I was an in-house guy, when I was a service tech, they had fucked up routing, right? And they were routing. I was in Georgia, but they were routing the Georgia guys. That it appeared in the back end that we had 4 more techs than we actually had, right? So they were routing work for like 17 guys, and we only had 13 or something, 12. So 4 or 5 extra guys there. They were routing a full workload for. So we were all staying out till like 11 o'clock every night for like, this went on for like 5 or 6 months till they figured out what was causing it. And that in itself was rough, but I knew what the hell I was doing. Now put somebody in that situation that has no idea what the hell they're even supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
That's just an impossible situation.
Yeah, and
so
it's a setup. It's a setup to fail.
Yeah, and that's the reason that the turnover for contractors is so high. And
do you blame them?
Blame them whatsoever. I think that everything runs downhill. So cable operators use contractors to save money, right? That's essentially what it's for.
Yeah.
They don't pay these guys benefits or anything. Sad part is a lot of these guys are, especially like the 1099s. The 1099s are the saddest situation there is, man.
Yeah.
They're paying their own gas, their own vehicle. Now, they can make a lot of money if they just burn through things,
Yeah.
which is actually counterproductive to the bottom line of the cable operator. Because if you're paying these guys to do work, you're paying them reasonably well, because a lot of these 1099s get good pay rates, right? But you got to think all the overhead they have, their gas, their truck maintenance. So they have their own tools. They have to buy their own meter, their own uniforms.
Yep.
So that's all overhead. But then the only way they can make up that overhead is if they just run through stuff. So there's horror stories that we've all heard, where the contractor walks in, just sits the boxes in the floor and codes it complete, right? He don't give a shit about getting a repeat. He don't care. He's going to do this as long as he can until they kick him out. And then he's going to go to another system somewhere and do it all over again. The reason he's going to do that is because he's not making any money by actually doing the job. Yeah. They make it almost impossible for that man to make a living. So you can't actually hate on him. No. You have to understand that fact. But at the same time, when we were techs, if you look back at it, if that had happened, I'd have been like, son of a bitch. He didn't run a line in this house. He didn't do nothing.
Well, that opinion changed. I know I started out that way as well. And I know when we started CATV techs, that was a big thing for us, was contractors are no different than the rest of us. They actually get the shit end of the stick more than we do. They're restricted on time, and you realize why they move so fast is because, like you said, there's so much overhead. So if they drag ass at all, they're not feeding their family. So it makes sense why they would move quick, but it also makes sense why they would miss stuff. Now, don't get me wrong. You always get your bad apples that do things that they shouldn't, but that goes for the same for in-house techs as well. It's not just contractors. There's that type of tech, no matter where it is in the field, or whether you're in-house or contractor, there's still terrible techs out there. So I think
it's still a job you have to work.
So I think they're kind of like the redheaded stepchild, unfortunately, of the techs.
Well, that's why if you look at anywhere, like right now, if you look on LinkedIn or like we share sometimes some job ads, everybody's all these big like there used to be a bunch of tiny contracting companies, and I feel like now in the last couple of years they're being like bought up, like absolved, I guess.
Yeah, they're being sucked up by a bigger company.
By all the bigger ones. But all the bigger ones are always, you can look, if you Google any state in the United States, there's cable contracting jobs all over the place.
Yep.
They can't keep guys, and that's the reason why.
Yeah.
Now, I really believe if these contracting companies would take these guys, give them like 4 to 6 weeks, let them learn the job, treat them well, give them like a stipend to be able to buy uniforms or whatever, just help them a little bit get started. Yep. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well,
I believe it'd be a totally different game, but.
Well, if you think about it, you get this technician and you just throw them out there, and your turnover rate just becomes ridiculously high. So then when they turn around and go, hey, well, we need more training, the contractor company probably steps back and looks at it and goes, well, these guys, they leave too quick. So why are we going to spend time? We're going to pay them for 4 weeks to train them. Why bother? They're just going to end up quitting 2 weeks later. So they're kind of in
broken system.
Exactly. They're kind of in that broken limbo. So, and it sucks because it's pretty much putting that stamp on the contractor. It's defining who they are when it shouldn't be the way that they're defined. Just because they're a contractor, it's not their fault that everything that happens around them doesn't necessarily come from them. It's just all the downsides of being a contractor.
Well, let me throw this out there. In every contract between a cable operator and a contracting company, they have specific marks they have to hit in order to get paid, right? Or even be allowed to work on the system. So, for instance, like, say Charter is working with, I ain't going to name any contracting companies, I'll just make something up. ABC Cable, right?
Yep.
They're going to say in their contract, okay, you have to be certified by a third party. And they don't say specifically which one, but they'll give like options. Well, the contractors, they'll go and like NCTI has a full course for broadband installation, right? But nobody, it's like $800. Nobody's going to spend that. So they also have an option where they can get a certificate that shows they can work on the system for $100.
That must
So a
be a
bunch of these
southern
guys
thing.
will.
I've never heard of that up here.
It's everywhere. It's everywhere.
I don't
And
ever
for like
remember
$100,
that.
yeah. Well, I was at the SCTE show last year, and there was a lot of people talking about that.
Really?
And yeah, it's a big deal, man. And because
Wow.
they have to show that, like, a lot of times they need that just to be able to work on the system. So what happens in a lot of cases, they don't have training at all, but they'll bring all these guys into one room, and there'll be a guy that knows the answers to this test. He'll walk around the room and give it to them, and they'll all have a certificate that says they're certified in broadband installation, but they haven't learned anything.
Yeah.
So they only do the bare minimum for these guys that they have to do in order to be able to put them on the system and let them work.
So what
But
you're
they're not
telling
getting
me
anything
is
out of it.
they're literally just paying $100 for a fake ID. They're paying $100 for a fake education.
For the most part, yeah, for a
that
piece of paper.
Yeah, that says they do it, even though they really haven't been trained on it.
Absolutely, and that's like it's been like that for a long time. SCTE is like that too. If you think about it, they have that test. It's like $99. You know, there's so many, but they're required by the cable operators for these contractors just to work on the system.
Yes.
But they're not learning how to do the job. They're just being told answers to a test, and then they get thrown out there, and they're like, oh, shit, I don't want to fuck with this. I'm making no money. I don't know what I'm doing, and they quit. And then if you go the other side of that, you know, that's
we got to be careful because, you know, if there's any new contractors listening, they're probably listening to us going, oh my God, what the fuck did I just do with my life? I mean,
yeah, no,
we can't assume it's
there are very good avenues out there to, if you want to do this job, there are avenues that and eventually I could probably pass some good ones along to these guys. With that being said, there are avenues to get you where you need to be.
Yep.
But this is just the disadvantages of what they're going through, basically as a whole in a lot of places. Now, I'm not saying they're all this way. There's a lot of contracting companies do a good job with their guys. Yeah. That sometimes they come in and they're treated just like in-house guys, but that's very rare.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you think about it, it's like I used to be told it was like this. When they would schedule work out in the field, 80% would go to in-house and 20% would go to contractors. That way, if we didn't have enough work in-house, they would just unfortunately take it away from the contractors to bring back up to 80%. But with that happening,
taking food out of these guys' mouths, man.
Yeah.
Because they get paid by the job. Like if they did that to us when we were in house, we get paid by the hour. So they didn't make a shit. We'd sit in the parking lot and hang out with our buddies.
Yeah,
we could care less, right?
Yeah, it didn't
matter. But for a contractor, man, they're like, "Fuck, I need work, dude. I've only made $30 a day, and I've been here for 6 hours." You know?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of to me, there's kind of more disadvantages in the contracting world than there is in the in-house world. I mean, you still get fucked over a lot working either way because, you always want to plan stuff for your family. Okay, well, tonight we're going to go watch a movie, or little Jacob's got a baseball game, or whatever the hell you want to do. We got a birthday party, tonight at 7, and it don't always happen that way, and that is a disadvantage just being a cable tech in general. But I feel like the contractors feel that a lot worse than the in-house guys do.
Oh, my gosh. I mean, I remember talking to guys and they were contractors, most contractors I've ever talked to out in the field, they're working 6-7 days a week.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to work 4 10-hour days, and granted, I know a lot of guys who work the 5-day shift, so they were getting out at 4:00, which was great, but I liked only having to work 4 days. I couldn't imagine having to work 6-7 days a week just to be able to. I mean, I have, but to compare the two, to me as an in-house tech only having to work 4 days a week to a contractor that's forced to work 6 days a week, and my benefits are still better. It's just
Something's wrong with that,
yeah,
right?
that's a
To do the
problem.
exact same job.
Yeah, I mean, I've had my experiences with contractors, like I'm sure you have, good and bad. But I remember I had a tech who ended up, he had an install at a house I had a trouble call at. They just happened to schedule him at the same day. And I don't know, you know how scheduling goes. It's not always the best. And talking to him, and I gave him a hand. I helped him out. I was there anyways. It was a simple input issue anyways, so I didn't really spend a whole lot of time on it. And I was talking to him. I'm like, how's the contracting world? I know it sucks. And he was telling me all about it. He's like, yeah, work's tough. He goes, they allow us to take trouble calls now. I'm like, oh, sweet. He's like, yeah. He's like, but I haven't seen one of those in a couple of weeks now. I'm like, well, I have one. I'm like, do you want it? And he's like, really? I'm like, it's a simple job. I'm like, I'll even come help you. I'm like, I'll have dispatch move it to you and give me a tech assist. That way you can get credit for the job. And the guy's like, oh, no way. So I went with him to the next job, and, we crushed that one in 15, 20 minutes. So it was nice to kind of.
They let you do that in dispatch?
They let us do it. It was the one time I really ever did it. So I'm sure if we did it consistently, people would have caught on. But the kid had nothing for the rest of the day. And I really didn't have anything. We both got along. We worked well together. So I was like, hey, man, if he's going to get paid more and I'm going to get paid the same no matter what, why not give it to him?
Yeah, I mean, and that's great, dude. It's kind of sad how I think this thing has been broken for so long. How the work is sent out, how they contract X amount to these guys, and how they pay them, how they treat them. Like, we're all in this together. We're all the same. We're the same. We're all breathing, walking human beings. We all do the exact same work, and it shouldn't be as different as it is.
Yeah.
And now you say that. Now, I live in a system where the entire system is ran by contractors. There is not but one in-house tech for this system I live in. And they're treated really well. They make upwards of like $25 an hour.
Well, yeah, because they're pretty much the monopoly of the technicians for that
exactly.
area.
But that is a very big rarity to the industry as a whole. And that's a fiber to the home system too. So these guys have to know things that, the standard HFC guy wouldn't know that works on just a normal cable plant. So so I understand how they pay them, and they pay them really well, but that's not the norm by any means. My personal experience, I've had good and bad, like you said, with contractors. Like my biggest ones, I think I told you this story a few days ago. I was on a one outlet install for a modem, and the DirecTV guy showed up. Yeah, and he was in his little beater truck. Man, I felt bad for him. I didn't tell you this part, but I felt bad for him when he showed up. He was in like this little S10 truck. It was like, it almost looked like a little lowrider. You'd see like somebody with hip hop music, and it was bouncing or something. It was sitting so low to the ground, and it had stickers on it that said Ditech or something on them, and it had it looked like somebody took a damn sledgehammer and just beat the shit out of the body. It was beat to hell. And the back of his truck was full of those big plastic tubs and shit. Well, I had hooked up the motor. Yeah, those big totes.
The guys.
And I'm assuming it was
cable boxes.
Big totes, and I'm assuming it had cable and shit in it he needed, and boxes and whatever. And
that's freaking. I couldn't even imagine, especially on a rainy day.
Yeah, it wasn't a good situation. And he had a little ladder rack on it. Had one little step ladder on it. And well, I didn't think much about it. I was pretty cordial with him. I'm like, hey man, how are you? And all I had to do when I got there is I had to run an outlet from the ground block, like maybe 7 to 8 to 10 feet at the most, down the wall, right into the wall. And it didn't take me 10 minutes to do it. And I hooked the modem up, and I was activating it in my truck, and I think I told you this the other day. You remember where it's like activating, little dots would go,
Yeah.
and it popped. It said activation failed, and I'm like, what? So I go in and I look, and my modem's offline. Then I walk back out to the side. He had cut my cable loose, and he had hooked the DirecTV to it.
Oh
And I'm
my
like,
God.
what are you doing, man? Like, what's up, dude? He goes, that's my line. I said, how's it your line? I just ran it. That's my ground. I just ran it. Like, so that was a bad deal. Like, to me, I understand you're not getting paid worth of shit, but it ain't going to take you 10 minutes to run a line 10 feet, right?
See,
it's just not going to happen.
But that even shows you, no matter what kind of, I mean, it wasn't a cable technician, that was a satellite technician. So
yeah,
no matter
but
what,
at the same time, yeah, they're bad techs everywhere. But that was literally the case of a bad tech, right? He was just too lazy to run a line, and didn't get resolved.
No, that was a case of a shitty person.
It didn't get resolved until the man that was like there, the owner of the house, he like walked out and he says, what's going on, guys? And I was like, dude, I had you hooked up and he stole my outlet. He said, didn't you just run you a line in there? I said, I did. He said, well, I think I would like a new one for my TV. And that guy turned fucking red, man, that dish tech, and he just like stormed off to his truck. And I hooked the shit back up and got that guy on and took off. But, that was like a one-off. But there's been a lot of times, I think we all went through it, where we get like, especially when they were doing those failed self-install kits like years ago. Or they would code them as failed self-install kits, when in reality, like a contractor would they were getting paid at one point to like drop stuff off, right, for self-installs. And
really?
They were supposed to make sure. Yeah, and down here they did for a while. They were paying contractors to, what they did, they would call them they would hot tap it. They were supposed to hook it up at the tap. They were supposed to hook up all the outlets in the ground block, make sure they were clean, didn't have any ingress on it, and then they were supposed to leave the stuff at the door.
Huh.
Well, 99.9999999% of the time, the drop either wasn't hooked up or there wasn't even a drop there. The ground block, you go over where the ground block should be, and like all the cable and shit's like thrown up on the ground. There's no house box, no ground, there's nothing there. So like it would turn into a full blown install. So that shit got frustrating, because I run a lot of those for a while. But then at the same time, you go back to what we talked about earlier. These guys ain't making shit. They probably made $9 to drop that shit off, right?
Yep.
Well, if I do 10 of these in a day, I make $90. If I do 3 because I got to hang these drops that I can't charge for, fuck that. I'm not doing it. And you can't blame them.
Yep. And it's I mean, in one way, it's not justifiable, because you do choose the job. You do. That's what you decided to do. So it's unfortunately
not necessarily. Before you say that, don't say that. Here's the world's a tough place to be in.
No,
all right? I think we can both agree on that.
Yeah.
So I mean, sometimes you just have to find a job, and some of these guys, and sometimes, dude, I'm telling you, I've seen it too, where a guy will start as a contractor, he'll starve to death for a while. Eventually, he'll work his ass off, and he'll either run the area he's in for the contracting company,
yep,
or he'll get a job as an in-house guy. Like, they're not all bad stories.
No,
all I'm saying is that it's just there's a lot more advantages to being an in-house technician than there is to being a contractor.
Yeah. Yep.
For the long term of being a cable tech.
Oh my God, absolutely, 100%. I mean, like you said, I know plenty of in-house guys that were contractors, because that's the best direction to go. It's your best bet is to, unfortunately, kind of bust your ass for 6 months to a year, make sure your numbers are as best as they can be, and put that on your resume when you go to try to go in-house, and hope that you get one of those spots that pop up.
Yeah, and I wish that for anybody who really wants to do this long term, that they get those opportunities. But at the same time, there's more sad stories about how these guys are dealt with and treated than there are success stories.
Yeah.
So when we get a success story, like, it's something that we should really talk about, like, because they need to be known that it is possible. Like, I hate, like, whenever you go to work and you feel, if you show up at work and you feel like, fuck, man, I have no way out of this. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm not making any money. How am I going to pay my power bill that I should be able to pay if I had a paycheck, but they're not giving me any work? Like, that's just a hard situation.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's in the long, big scheme of things. If it was me, if they would change the way, it's the formula they've used for so long and got things done, but they're spending twice as much money doing it. I'm talking about the cable operators. If they would find a way to be able to pay these guys equally or close to equally as the in-house guys, and actually bring them in for a career instead of just something they do for 6 or 8 weeks and then realize they're not ever going to make a living and they quit.
Yeah, or just train the guys.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. Set them up for success instead of failure.
Exactly.
There would be a lot less repeats. There'd be a lot less unhappy people. If you go anywhere, any forum anywhere, you're going to find like customers that just hate fucking Comcast, right? They just hate them. The reason they hate them is a lot of times is because of a bad contractor.
Yep.
Is it really his fault? In a way it is, but in another way you got to look at it, well, dude, I'm making $35. I'm not doing 9 wall fishes in this big ass house. And you can't blame him.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's we all point our finger at that contractor, but for that one guy who, maybe failed, there's another 75 guys behind him that succeeded. You only see the ones that fail. Us as technicians, we don't go back to jobs that succeed because if the tech succeeded, why would we be going back? So it's, again, you got bad eggs no matter what side you're on, in-house or contractor. But I don't know. I hope if anybody takes from this episode is give the contractors a break. They're just trying to do their job too, and they're just trying to
make a living everywhere. Like the rest of us. And there are city techs on both sides of the fence.
Yep. So
last thing I'll say before we get off tonight, whether you're an in-house technician or you're a contractor, approach the job and take pride in what you're doing to the best of your ability within reason. That's the best thing I can say.
Yeah. Yep. I could say just hurry up and try to get in-house. The benefits are there, man. It's not worth it anywhere else. No, I can't say that. But like you said, I mean, you had that in your system where you are. It's all ran by contractors, and they have the monopoly. They're getting paid $25 an hour, so it's not all contracting is bad. But I feel like the bigger the system, the more busy it is, the more they get pushed off to the side, and the harder it becomes for them.
Yeah, definitely. Like I would say bigger cities, they struggle a lot harder, I'd say.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't even imagine starting this job and having to fork out that kind of money for tools. And if not even fork out, I know they make it so you can do payment plans. So it comes right out of your paycheck month, every week you get paid, they take out a little for tools and stuff like that. But I couldn't even how many tools have you lost as a technician and you just go back to the office and go, yep, lost my freaking cutters. I need a new pair.
Yeah.
Thanks. And they just hand it to you. I mean, I know guys who had 2 sets of tools because they just told the coach that they lost their tools, and they just hand them over a brand new one without even batting an eyelid. As a contractor, if you legitimately lose yours, that's it. You're dishing out another, $50-$60 for that compression tool. Those things aren't cheap. They're expensive.
That's like we said earlier, man. That's another disadvantage to being a contractor versus being an in-house tech. The tools and you got to think meters, man. In-house has every advantage known to man. The contractors get what's left over, and they expect them to compete at the same level. It's just not feasible.
And you know what though? You know what that tells me? That tells me that any contractor that's now an in-house tech, they're above that just in-house tech. If you can succeed as a contractor and become an in-house tech, you're one good tech. You definitely have my respect.
Absolutely, man. Well, we're gonna end on this. I think I just want to say, guys out there, regardless if you are working for a cable operator or work for a contractor, like I said earlier, take pride in what you're doing. Good things happen to hard workers, and we're always here for you. And you're no different if you're a contractor, if you're an in-house tech. I have the most respect for you guys. We're all cable technicians. We all do the same job. So, all you in-house guys out there, man, give the contractors a little bit of grief. You kind of got a little backstory of what they go through.
Yeah, it's not always greener on the other side. So no, but no, thank you everybody for joining. We will catch you next time. We got a couple of things in the works. Again, we're gonna get some guests on here soon. We're here for you guys. We're here for the techs. Come to blow off steam, and yeah, we'll catch you guys next time.
Peace.
See ya. Like what you just heard? Then don't forget to click that subscribe button. Questions for the hosts or just want to say hello? You can email us at catvtechtalk@gmail.com or find us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/catvtechs. Thanks again for joining us, and don't forget, climbing, crawling, drilling, driving is just the beginning.